Australian warships were reportedly confronted by Chinese Navy in contested South China Sea amid heightened tensions between the two nations. The incident took place when the Australia's Defence Force Joint Task Group consisting of 5 ships was travelling through the area on the way to Hawaii for joint military war games with the US and Japan in the Philippine Sea. ABC first reported that the Australian warships encountered the Chinese Navy during a voyage that included travel close to the Spratly Islands, although it was believed the Australian ships did not go within 12 nautical miles of the contested islands. The Australian Defence Force Joint Task Group consisting of 5 ships, HMAS Canberra, Hobart, Stewart, Arunta and Sirius, was travelling through the area last week on the way to Hawaii for joint military war games with the US and Japan in the Philippine Sea. As reported by Eurasian Times earlier, Australia, Japan and the United States conducted a trilateral military drill in the Pacific Ocean in a show of solidarity against Chinese aggression in the South China Sea. Australia has downplayed the incident and according to the Defense Department all unplanned interactions with foreign warships throughout the deployment were conducted in a safe and professional manner. Despite the latest confrontation, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Australia would continue to adopt a very supportive position of freedom of navigation in the SCS. The South China Sea is a key naval passage linking Asia with Africa and Europe. As estimated $3.37 trillion of international trade passes through the SCS and it is believed to be abundant in untapped natural resources such as oil and gas. China has claims to 80% of the SCS. It is also claimed by Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia and Brunei. Relations between Beijing and Canberra have hit rock bottom ever since Australia called for a COVID-19 inquiry. Irked, China retaliated by blocking beef imports from 4 abattoirs, imposing new customs requirements on Australia's iron ore and levying a 40% tariff on Australia's barley exports. Since then, Australia and China have had a disagreement over new security law in Hong Kong. Canberra has offered to settle Hong Kongers leaving Hong Kong. In response, China has lashed out at Australia and warned of huge impact to the Australian economy if the government pushes ahead with a plan. Australia finds itself in a tough spot. While it trying to stand up to a bullying China, it cannot afford to irk Beijing since China is its biggest trade partner. At the same time, Australia wants to continue robust defense relations with the US and counter an aggressive China. According to other source, Australian warships have encountered China's Navy in the disputed South China Sea at a time of heightened diplomatic tensions between the two countries. The Australian government has played down the encounter believed to have occurred last week, saying on Thursday that all interactions with foreign warships throughout the deployment were conducted in a safe and professional manner. Defence spokesperson confirmed that 5 Australian warships HMAS Canberra, Hobart, Stewart, Arunta and Sirius transited the South China Sea independently from the 14th to the 18th of July, including near the Spratly Islands. They were bound for Hawaii to join a US-led military exercise known as RIMPAC. The spokesperson said all interactions with foreign warships were handled safely and professionally as we would expect in response to vessels operating in international waters in accordance with international law. There were routine and professional naval communications and no confrontation, the spokesperson added. News of the encounter comes after the Trump administration toughened up its position against China's maritime claims in the South China Sea, prompting Beijing to label the US a troublemaker that was making completely unjustified claims that China was bullying smaller countries in the region. Diplomatic tensions between China and Australia have also been rising, driven by a dispute over Canberra's call for a COVID-19 inquiry, along with Beijing's imposition of tariffs on Australian barley and the disagreement over the new national security law in Hong Kong. The 5 Australian warships left Darwin on the 5th of July and have been taking part in drills with Japan and the United States in the Philippine Sea this week before heading to Hawaii for RIMPAC. Fence says the ADF vessels joined the USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group, which included the United States Navy's guided missile cruiser USS Antietam and guided missile destroyer USS Mustin, and Japan's Akazuki-class destroyer JS Terazuki for joint activities in the Philippine Sea this week. This week's joint activities have included replenishment at sea, aviation operations, maritime maneuvers and communications drills, according to a defense statement issued on Tuesday. Captain Sakano Yusuke, commander of Japan's Escort Division 4, said this week's exercise would give the 3 countries tactical and operational advantages and make our friendships stronger, in addition to our regular joint exercises with both like-minded navies. U.S. Navy Captain Russ Caldwell, commanding officer USS Antietam, said the U.S. was fortunate to routinely operate alongside its allies across the Indo-Pacific, and coordinated operations like these reinforce our mutual commitment to international maritime norms and promoting regional stability. Australia's Defence Strategy Update, released earlier this month, warned that the COVID-19 pandemic was sharpening aspects of competition between the US and China, and the Australian Defence Minister, Linda Reynolds, accused Beijing of taking some actions that had unsettled the stability of our region. Mike Pompeo, the U.S. Secretary of State, said last week that the world would not allow Beijing to treat the South China Sea as its maritime empire, and that the U.S. would stand with the international community in defense of freedom of the seas and respect for sovereignty in the region.